Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and in this video, I'll be profiling a clip from Inner Vision's YouTube channel titled Scott Ritter, Israel Been Defeated on the Battlefield. We will not save them this time. I'm sure a lot of you brothers by now are aware of Scott Ritter. He was a former Marine, and I know he had something to do with, the United Nations. I believe it was the nuclear watchdog program, making sure all the nations, different nations were saying that they were following by the rules. But hey, he's a geopoliticist that goes into a lot of issues, and he has a very good insight on it. He's been heavily going into the Russian war in Ukraine, and now with this whole situation between the state of Israel and, Palestine and Hamas and all that, he's going into a lot of in-depth analysis of that. And as the title says, we will not save them this time. Scott Ritter's under the impression that the United States won't get involved on the behalf of, the state of Israel in regards to war against Iran. But when you understand the scriptures, that's not the case. The U.S. and the state of Israel are going to go to war against Iran, and it's going to play into the bigger battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon in Joel chapter 3. And before I start this video, and I'm going to be jumping around a bit, this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage into this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And like I've said in a few videos before, as a lot of other brothers have been saying, prophecy is speaking so much that whether knowingly or unknowingly, when people, experts or whoever go into current events, hey, it sounds like they've been watching the videos and going into the scriptures. That's how prevalent these end times prophecies are out here. And they're only going to continue to come to their fulfillment. World War III will take place, and nuclear missiles will be fired to the ends of the earth. And this war in the Middle East damn sure is going to take place, the Valley of Jehoshaphat. But I'm going to start the video at the 1 minute mark.
But I will tell you this. First of all, both Israel and the United States know that there can't be a war between Israel and Iran unless the United States is involved. We know that because we participated in joint exercises with Israel, Chariots of Fire last year, Firm Hand this year, where the various scenarios were tested out, and Israel lacks the capacity to attack Iran on a sustained basis without American assistance. They need America to take over that conflict because they can't do it on their own.
And hey, point blank period, Israel can't go against Iran alone. They need the United States of America to come in on their side, which is exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to go to my first precept in Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh that he had taken against Edom, the biblical Edomites being known as these so-called white people today, these so-called Caucasians in the United States of America, in the UK, Russia, South Africa, Europe, and even those people over in the Holy Land right now who are Amalekite Edomites. They're not the true people of the book. The true children of the Most High, whose name is Yahweh, are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. And, the Temanites are a tribe of the Edomites, and, those Germans and a lot of those Central European Edomites or Temanites. And where did those Amalekites flee from after World War II? Mainly from Central and Eastern Europe into the Holy Land. And his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. The least of the flock, speaking of those Amalekite Edomites over in the Holy Land, doing something to provoke a war against Iran, whether a direct attack or, creating a FF situation to blame it on Iran. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. And when the Amalekites are in a full-blown war with Iran, it's going to draw out the United States of America in on their side. This is Joel chapter 2, verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the Northern Army, the North American Army, the United States military, all branches, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, etc., etc. And since this whole situation over in that region kicked off back on October 7th, you've been seeing the U.S. move a lot more of its military assets back into that region. But I will remove far off from you the Northern Army and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, like a desert, that Middle Eastern region, which is really Western Asia, with his face toward the East Sea. And when we go to a map of the Middle East or Western Asia, we have Saudi Arabia right here, which is going to be the main staging ground for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. And the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have ties, and the U.S. has a military presence there. And best believe that the U.S. is going to get, even more, tied to Saudi Arabia, with Saudi Arabia now moving more towards the east and, coming up with new plans to do currency swaps with China. The U.S., can't allow that to happen, because what is one of the main pillars of the U.S. dollars is global dominance, that petrodollar system where Saudi Arabia agrees to sell its oil only in U.S. dollars. But I digress. But you see, we have Saudi Arabia right here. And to the east, what do you have? The Persian Gulf. And above the Persian Gulf, Iran. And to the northeast, you have Iraq with the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which the U.S. also has a military presence in Iraq. Look at what's been going on over the last couple of weeks. So-called Iranian-backed rebels and militia groups have been attacking U.S. forces in Iraq as well as in Syria. And his hinder part, or behind him, toward the utmost sea, the Red Sea. And what do you have to the north of the Red Sea? The Holy Land, and Syria as well. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he had done great things. And there's going to be a great slaughter of U.S. military personnel, as well as the other heathens as militaries that are gathered down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. And so if you're a U.S. military personnel, man or woman, that comes across this video, you better come to terms with the fact that that region's going to be your final resting place. And, if you're an Israelite, so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American in the U.S. military right now, and these words and these prophecies are pricking your spirit, you better do what you can to get out of the military, because you're actually going to fight against the Son of the Most High, Yahushai, who is going to make his second coming in the midst of the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. As it says in 2 Esdras chapter 13, these nations are going to fight each other, but when Yahushai makes his second coming, they're going to stop fighting each other to try to fight against Yahushai, but it's going to be a first-round knockout, no contest, nothing but the smell of dust and smoke. But back in Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. So it's all a part of biblical prophecy for those Amalekite Edomites to do something to provoke a greater war in the Middle East, and then the United States of America, that Northern Army, to get dragged into it. Because as Scott Ritter just said,
joint exercise of the Israel chariots of fire.
We know that because we participate. Well, let me back it up some more.
First of all, both Israel and the United States know that there can't be a war between Israel and Iran unless the United States is involved. We know that because we participated in joint exercises with Israel, Chariots of Fire last year, Firm Hand this year, where the various scenarios were tested out. And Israel lacks the capacity to attack Iran on a sustained basis without American assistance. And they need America to take over that conflict because they can't do it on their own. They literally can't do it on.
Point blank, period. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, and I will remove far off from you the northern army. And hey, it's not just the U.S. and other NATO forces that are going to come in on the side of the Amalekite Edomites. On the side of Iran, her allies like Russia and China are going to come in to, add to that great meat grinder, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. But let's continue.
Their own. And the problem is that they can initiate a strike against Iran, but then Iran will destroy all of Israel with precision-guided ballistic missiles. Not just Iran. There's a member of the Israeli cabinet, female member of parliament. She's a Likud party member. She's resigned against Netanyahu, and today she's saying that he has ruined Israel, and he has. She understands the truth. She knows the truth, that Hezbollah is sitting on thousands of precision-guided munitions. Precision-guided munitions meaning that they will strike a target within 3 meters of its intended, the point of detonation. That means it's going through a window. And that these weapons are such that the Israelis can't intercept them. So if they're fired, they will hit what they're aimed at. And that will destroy Israel. She knows it. Netanyahu knows it. That's why he wants America involved. The only way he can defeat Hezbollah and Iran is if America takes the lead. That's the last thing the United States wants to do, however. We don't have the military capacity to defeat Iran. And the consequences of
They don't have the military capacity to defeat Iran. How much more a combined effort of Russia and China? The U.S. military is spread thin like the ancient legions of the Roman Empire.
long war with Iran would be devastating for the global economy because the oil production capacity of the Middle East will be terminated, some of it permanently so. We know this. Joe Biden, he wants to be president again. So he's not going to commit economic suicide by blindly supporting Israel. Netanyahu is finished.
Hey, Esau Edom as a whole is finished. And regardless of who the president is, whenever this war kicks off, this war will kick off. It's all a part of biblical prophecy. But now I'm going to skip to the 14-minute and about 24-second mark. See if we can get it right around there. Perfect.
Now because of it.
If the Netanyahu administration were capable of dragging the U.S. into a larger conflict in the Middle East, how do you see the role of Turkey as a NATO ally?
Well, first,
hey, that's another important point, because while Turkey is a NATO ally right now, there's going to come a point to where they're going to completely decouple from the West and go into the East and be complete allies with Russia and going against, the West. Which, let's get that. This is Ezekiel chapter 38. I'm going to start at verse 2. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, which is the biblical name for Russia, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. And that's the Most High putting that old confrontational Soviet Union spirit back on these Russian Edomites, which we can clearly see with their war going on in Ukraine and them constantly making threats against the West, specifically the United States of America, and using their nuclear arsenal against them. What did Russia just put into military service? The Sarmat or Satan II nuclear missile. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, their military assets, soldiers, troops, fighter jets, helicopters, artillery pieces, hypersonic missiles, etc., being gathered down into that Middle Eastern region for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Hey, the least of the flock shall draw them out. Now, let's go into some of the allies of Gog or Russia. Ezekiel 38, verse 5. Persia, which of course is the ancient name for Iran. Ethiopia, which just recently talked about lessening their reliance on the US dollar and joining BRICS, which Iran is also talking about doing. And Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Here's the main point. Gomer, which is speaking of Turkey, and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company, or your allies. But wait, I thought Turkey was a NATO ally. According to biblical prophecy, they're eventually going to completely decouple from the West and ally themselves with Gog or Russia, and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. And Russia is going to be a guard unto them and these other nations, especially Iran, when the least of the flock draws out that northern army against them.
That's why I want to say that I think nobody wants this war. Everybody's on to Israel's trick. Everybody's on to Israel's trick. So it would be the dumbest thing in the world for this thing to explode. The United States is doing unprecedented reaching out to Iran, telling them we don't want this war. And Iran is doing unprecedented reaching out to everybody else, saying we don't want this war. A lot of pressure is being put on Hezbollah, who's in a very tight situation, to manage the escalation so it doesn't explode into war. And the United States is putting pressure on Israel, saying, don't you even think about opening up a northern front, which, of course, is an act of desperation that Netanyahu might do to hold on to power as his Gaza gambit fails. So I think we have to understand that any talk about a larger war is purely speculation. And it's, that's a...
And hey, according to biblical prophecy, it's not speculation, it's inevitability.
It can't happen. Of course it can't happen. All the pieces are there. The emotions are running high. One miscalculation. My God, if one of these Iraqi or Syrian resistance missiles, mortars, lands on an American base and kills 25 soldiers, not wounds, kills 25 soldiers, hell's going to come. Hell's to pay. We won't take that. And then we have the real risk of major war. But nobody wants that war. Everybody's on the net.
And I found this very poignant. Look at what that sign says, Rothschild, which best believe that the elites have their hands in a lot of these geopolitical events taking place to, you know what, bring that order out of chaos, to bring about their NW0, their GREATRESET. But they're nothing more than puppets of the Most High to what? Fulfill prophecy. As it says in Proverbs 21, verse 1, the king's hand or mind is in the hand of, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. He moveth it whithersoever he will. And those Rothschilds are Amalekite Edomites, JWO ishes.
Who's treachery. Turkey is a NATO ally. This has nothing to do with NATO. Nothing to do with NATO whatsoever. This is purely a Middle Eastern problem. And the United States is not going to go to war against Turkey if Turkey...
A Gomer unto Gog, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and thy allies that thy company unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. However it plays out, just know that Turkey is going to abandon the West and fully ally themselves with Russia. And all those nations are going to get gathered down by the least of the flock into that land, barren and desolate, the Valley of Jehoshaphat, for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Let's see with this video. Now let's go to Joel chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, the heathen nations. Prepare war. World War III, war against Iran, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, nuclear war, because it will go nuclear. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And we can see these different nations, positioning themselves and moving military assets into that region for this inevitable battle. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I am strong. You've got Iran making big old threats to the U.S. and the state of Israel because they know that Russia's going to come in on their side. And what just happened, those Yemeni Houthi rebels just hijacked a major cargo ship that's owned by an Amalekite tycoon. They're doing it without regard to the threats from the West. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen. The United States of America, Russia, Iran, the state of Israel, China, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, these other NATO nations, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh, and those mighty ones are the death angels of the Most High, holding back this great destruction, waiting to get the go-ahead to release it, which is mainly going to happen after the MOTB in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, which is the RFID/NFC C-hip implant is mandatorily implemented. And we can see that with each passing day, we're moving towards that digital cashless society where people are going to need digital IDs. It just recently in Australia, they're putting laws into place to ban the use of physical currencies, and everybody is going to need a digital ID. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shabbat, or Yahweh's judgment. And when you go to the first couple of verses of this chapter, you'll see ultimately why Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is gathering these heathen nations down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat to judge them for afflicting the children of Israel. And the top nations that have afflicted the children of Israel, as pursuant to Psalms chapter 83, are you Edomites, our very own brother. And they also mention Amalek in that same breath, because you Amalekites, you funded the transatlantic slave trade, made a lot of money off of it. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. And when we see information like what was spoken about in that video come out, and just these current events taking place, we know that the day of Yahweh is very near in the valley of decision, in the valley of Yahweh Shabbat, or Jehoshaphat, World War III. I'm going to close it out in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming upon us and will go nuclear. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.